welcome everybody back to the channel. My name is Classic Sam. Look who I have. It's Nick from Epic Realms. Oh my gosh. And welcome all my new people who just came here to say hi. And all the people who are here from before. Welcome back to the channel. How's everyone doing? Nick, welcome to the channel. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for inviting me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited. I've been like trying to get this for the longest time. And I'm
Right?
super happy about it.
We got it scheduled. We got to figure it out.
I mean, it's always a scheduling thing. It's never not a scheduling thing, but it's okay.
Right?
So, it's par for the course for anything TTRPG. So, always scheduling. But tell me, I want to start off with you are a big podcaster. So, and it's something we have in common. It's a little, we're very similar in that you don't have a group of people with you. I don't have a group of people with me. You're very solo. I'm very solo. How did you start podcasting and why gaming as the subject matter?
I started podcasting years ago, and it was because of a friend. I worked in radio for years
Okay.
when I was younger. I went to school. My first stint in college was broadcasting and
Oh,
journalism. And a friend of mine knew that, and he's like, gosh, he got invited to do a podcast. It was a spin off from a podcast called Fear the Boot,
oh, okay.
and it was called Kicked in the Dice Bags, and they had a GM edition and a players edition, and they needed more people for that one of those shows,
Hmm.
and they're like, hey, let's see if he comes on. So they brought me on, and it was like two or three people at a time on a show, and it just clicked, and that's when I kind of got to know what podcasting was,
Hmm.
and eventually like schedules didn't work out, and so me and my friend just started doing extra episodes for them,
Okay.
but then they stopped putting out episodes, so we were the only ones creating content, and all of our content was the most viewed and most listened to stuff. So we're like, well, why don't we just do our own? So we did a side off,
Hmm.
of that show, basically what we were doing, which was whatever the heck we could think of.
Right.
And eventually I started doing little interviews on there with authors and stuff, people I had met, because I just, that's what I wanted to do. I
Hmm.
wanted to do more of the chat and the interaction, cover a topic or whatever. And so we parted ways, and eventually I made Epic Realms, which is the interview style show you see now.
Oh.
So that's kind of how that came to be.
So most people who do type of podcasts like this, they niche down to specific games. Either they do only video games or they do only like sports games or something like that. But you kind of do a collaboration of all those things: TTRPG,
Yeah.
video games, authors. Like you said, you kind of go through the gambit. Why all those groups together?
The niche is being a geek. That's the niche.
Okay.
The niche is being a geek in anything that can be related to geekiness. So like
Hmm.
whether I have paranormal people on, if you like the paranormal, I've had guests
Yeah.
for paranormal talk shows and stuff like
Hmm.
that on it. I think that's a geeky thing. Professional wrestling, I think, is a geeky thing.
Okay.
Tabletop role playing, comic books, all of that, even movies. It's all very geeky related themed. So to me, that was the niche, even though it's really broad and it really doesn't necessarily fit. I didn't want to just focus on, okay, just D&D authors, just
Right.
horror authors, just comic book artists, just comic book writers, because while I could do that, there are so much more out there, and there's so
Yeah.
much more to learn, and so many things you can learn from various different people, that I really wanted to do that. And part of the show was, these are people I want to talk to.
Yeah.
There are 90% of the people that are on there are people that I want to talk to, people that whether I'm a fan of their product, they're a fan of their work, or just I knew them and they were just so cool that I wanted to have a long conversation with them, whatever it was.
Okay.
That's 90% of the guests that I wanted to have on the show.
So I like that you kind of just it's the same thing. It's people who I want to talk to. Like I kind of just kind of troll and not troll. I'm sorry, lurk in a bunch of people's channels. Like they're so interesting. But how do you choose your guests? Obviously, it's not just based on who you want to talk to, but they have to have some type of platform or something that they do specifically. How do you choose your guests?
It started off with just like authors and people who worked on tabletop RPGs. That was
Okay.
that was the start, and it was usually like D&D authors. So it started off with people I knew,
Okay.
people, and Ed Greenwood and Eric Scott
Ooh.
DeBay, Chris Jackson, Richard Lee Byers, and eventually they were like, "Oh, have you had this person on?" No, I haven't. Oh, that person's awesome too. I'll have them on. And so there was a lot of word of mouth and suggestions from a lot of those people. And then I'd go, well, I kind of want to have this, so I'd reach out to that. So it was very much like I said earlier, people that I really wanted to talk to, things I wanted to talk about. But it started off as its core, a core group of people that I knew, and now it's very much because I'm friends with so many more people that I've met that wanted to chat with me, that want to meet at Gen Con,
Yeah.
that I didn't necessarily know before the podcast, that I've gotten to know now, that I'm friends on social media with their private accounts. And so now I get suggestions like, do you know this person? I go, who's in common? Oh, all these authors are friend with this person. What do they do?
Oh,
Look them
cool.
up. They did all this really cool stuff. I got to have them on the show.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
it's like that, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn,
Right.
Twitch, TikTok,
It,
any of those places. I find a lot of those through there, and I go, these people are super awesome. Plus, I get publishing companies now that message me. Like,
oh, cool.
I just got, I get Random House has been really regular on contacting me.
Mm-hmm.
I just got 2 emails from Tor this week that's like, hey, we got these new authors. Do you want to have them on the show?
Oh,
So that's
nice.
become a new range of getting guests because they're contacting me
Oh,
to
that's
have
amazing.
people on. So yeah, it's really cool.
That's kind of cool. I mean, so does that mean that now that you're getting these publishers and these type of guests wanting to come on your show, that you have to read more books? Like,
That's the issue with me. I used to really enjoy reading books, and
mm-hmm.
I don't have time for it. And for a while there, I had my regular job was driving. I drove all day, so I listened to
Mm-hmm.
audiobooks all the time. I consumed
I
everybody.
loved it. Yes.
I now do the podcast and live stream full time. That is
Oh
my
wow.
job. That's all I'm doing. So I'm working on social media, on production,
Mm-hmm.
editing back, behind the scenes, and what can I do to push it, and talking to people. And so I don't get that time anymore. But I've had quite a few authors where I didn't really know, a Tor or a Penguin Random House would
Mm-hmm.
contact me and say, "Hey, can you have this author?" And I don't know anything about them. I can still do a podcast. I can still do a whole show
Okay.
with having read their product,
Mm-hmm.
and I've gotten to the point now where I can do that. Some of the people, Jimmy Fallon, he doesn't read their. He talks
Right.
about the books. He
Right.
knows the. He has people that do that stuff, figure out that stuff, and figure out the questions for him.
Exactly. Like get a
I
list
can
of
ask
questions.
questions and I can converse about somebody. And I still do research. I'll spend a few days
Mm.
doing research
Yeah.
on whoever my guest is ahead of time, just so I have some good questions and I have some things. And some of the themes are kind of the same. You'll
Mm-hmm.
notice I often do a this is your life story. You came from
Yes.
somebody who didn't do anything. You were a kid growing up in
Mm-hmm.
wherever, and this was your passion, and it changed into this, or it became this, or you were good in school, and now but you weren't good in school. Whatever it was, they all have this story. So it's become about their story
Okay.
and their journey just as much as asking cool questions about the technicalities and the behind the scenes. Or everybody's got something unique. If they're an audiobook narrator and an author, it's like, well, if you transition from one to the other, how did that work out, and did
Mm.
one help the other? You come up with those questions for
Right.
those relationships between their journey that makes the story really cool. So it doesn't matter if you know the guest or not, it's
Mm-hmm.
still a cool story you get to listen to.
So I like, and that's a great point. But you just said something before about research, and it's one of the things I have to do. Like if you're by yourself, Jimmy Fallon, like you said, has a team of people, but you do it by
Right.
yourself. When you have multiple guests, how do you break up that research? Because I am usually like, okay, after this person, this person, this person. Like, how do you do that if you have back to back guests or something like that?
If they're on at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason for it. I don't have them on at the same time unless there's a reason for it, and so
Okay.
and that's a lot easier for me if they're 2 people that I have on, or 3 people that I have on at the same time. And it hasn't happened very often. It's only happened a
Mm-hmm.
couple times where I've had more than one guest on. But usually there's a reason. They're working on a project together. They know each other. They're friends. Something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually makes my job a heck of a lot easier
Oh, that's
because
sweet.
an hour of 2 people talking, I get an extra 25 to 33% of
Yeah.
conversation from them that I don't have to worry about. It's way
Mm-hmm.
easier to go back and forth. I can ask one question and 2 people. That's twice as long to get 2 people to answer the same question.
Groups are so
Um,
much fun.
if they're back to back, like if I do 2 shows back to back, which only happened once, I did a pre-record show
Mm-hmm.
because someone wasn't available. I have sheets. I have a sheet of paper that's got all my notes, and I can compartmentalize my research.
Oh,
I'll do
nice.
one, and then I'll do the other.
Okay. Okay. So you you're here. You're big on. Okay. So let me go back a little bit. I always say that if you're over 1,000 people or 1,000 followers on any platform, I consider you big, even if you don't consider yourself big. So on Twitch, you are big on Twitch. Um, why this platform? Like, cause I've seen you also on TikTok and Instagram, all the other on YouTube. You obviously have podcasts with Spotify and the other platforms, but why Twitch per se?
Twitch is designed for live streaming.
Mm.
YouTube is designed for replayability. They can do live streaming,
Right.
but that's not what they're built for. Everything else isn't built for that. And when I first started, my plan was to create a channel that was 24/7,
Ooh.
because way back when you could host another channel and they would show up on your stream as if you were
Yes.
streaming it, right? So
I
like right now, I could, like, people originally, the idea was I could host Classic Sam
yeah, I
at
remember that.
on Fridays at 6 o'clock, and then you could tune into my channel and see what was on. And the plan was to gather a group of streamers and be able to host them all and create a ongoing schedule and have a 24-hour channel that was my content plus other podcasters, other
Hmm.
streamers, other gamers that do related things, and so that you could come there and you would have content 24/7. That was the plan.
Right.
And right before I started the stream, right before I started it, they changed how that worked.
I know. So why do you think that happened? Like I was wondering, like why do you think that happened? Because I love that feature, um, adored it, and then it went away. Because it was so much easier to watch different channels and find all these new people that way.
I think I don't know.
Okay,
I
right.
can give you the wild guess of,
Hmm.
if I have, say I have 10,000 people that watch my channel, right?
Hmm.
And you come on and they come to my channel to watch your stream and nothing else.
Hmm.
That's people that I'm taking away from you.
Right. Right.
And I think that was part of it. I think that there were probably people who complained, people who didn't like how that worked, and they eventually got rid of the whole hosting thing altogether.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone on completely. I mean, I'm kind of upset they didn't like kind of revamp it. I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of, you can go, like, I'm sure, when you go on, it's like your top list of streamers that you like, and you cycle over on the page and it'll
Hmm.
show up.
Right.
But yeah, it's not really the same as it used to be.
It's not really the same. So their I think their I guess way of making it a little bit better was to do the stream together. Have you done this stream together that Twitch does, where you can like pretty much open your stream, my stream, you open your stream, and you do it together? Have you done that yet?
I've done one. I did one. There's a streamer known as Supernatural Writer, and
Hmm.
she's likes to write authors. She wants to create her own production company. She does a workout stream and then like a co stream where you, like, she's live and she's kind of just doing work. She's typing or doing whatever, and
Hmm.
somebody comes in, and they can say, "Hey, I want to work on this project." And you can type it in the chat and it comes up. So I did that. I joined them on that, and we did a co-working stream, and I did a bunch of like video editing on the side while they were doing that. So
Hmm.
it was I did that, and I don't know, it was cool, but I see a lot of little things that can be reworked. I like to use Zoom. If I'm just doing audio, I like to
Hmm.
use the Discord. The stream together, I haven't worked with enough to really know if I like it or not, so I
Right.
can't be positive or negative about it. So,
I mean, I want to try it, but I haven't gotten anyone to actually want to. Everyone's kind of a little nervous about it, I think, but that's
like,
just
I'd
like
give it a shot. I'd do it, but yeah,
yeah. I think it's just a little bit of nerves. Like I'm scared that bad things will happen. Um, you also have live play on your channel, but you don't DM. I've been trying to figure this out. So you have a bunch of DMs that DM for you. You play as a player, which I think is super cool. But why aren't you DMing on your own channel?
I I do
Hmm.
GM on my own channel. The we have a game called the Old School 3 campaign
Okay.
that I that is my game that I run. It's set in another world. For our one of our GMs, Zine,
Hmm.
he is the creator of this world. It's a Pathfinder world. It's set in the Pathfinder system, and we call it the United Galarian. And there's like 12 different campaigns in the same world. They all
Right.
cross over. They all touch each other. Old School 3 campaign is set in that world, but I am the GM of
Okay.
that storyline. However, because I'm also a player in that game,
Hmm.
we change who the GM is. We bounce it around a little. I'm the
Oh.
main storyline, but because sometimes it's like I want a little break and I want to play my character just as well.
Hmm.
Well, it's gotten to the point where there are other people who have GM stuff in this United Galarian world that said, "Hey, I want to use these characters in a story," and they want to run something. So
Oh,
for the last
nice.
like 7 months, other people have been GMing the game because they've wanted to, and I've just facilitated how the story has gone. And I
Hmm.
talk with them on the side, like, "This is where we're going. Don't do anything with this. You can do stuff with this. This is kind of how the game is constructed."
Okay.
Um, so yeah, but I've run so many campaigns
Hmm.
from beginning to end to their completion overall, so like long multi-year campaigns that, and then I had COVID a couple of years ago,
Mm,
and my brain doesn't work the same way it used to.
it really doesn't.
So I struggle with the podcast
Hmm.
sometimes, with the interviews. I struggle with the live stream sometimes, and the GMing I certainly struggle. And sometimes putting the work in as a GM is really difficult.
Okay. Okay.
So I do GM. I do GM. I will be GMing again. In fact, I have a special thing coming up next week. I'll be making some pre-gen characters
Oh,
for a
cool.
campaign that I've been talking about for a year. That is a community RPG where our community members,
Mm.
some of them other streamers, some of them not, will get to play a character in our United Galarian world.
Oh, cool. Oh, cool. Speaking of your community members, you are very interactive with your community. Like I've seen it. I've been lurking in your channel for a very long time, and you are very interactive with them. Um, what benefits do you see with being that interactive, and what are some of the things that you wish that you didn't do with your community?
Interaction is huge. Like I
Hmm.
think that is a key to building a community. It's not a community if you're not in it,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Then you're just looking at another community that's built around you. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's like it's hard as a streamer. Like you don't want to be like you're my best friend because that
Right.
puts the wrong thoughts in people's minds. But
Hmm.
at the same time, like community is so huge just in Twitch, especially amongst the smaller
Yeah.
streamers, right? If you can build a community of streamers that are always helping each other out and sharing each other, talking about them and growing each other, I have a quote, and now I hear a lot of our other community members say it, and it's not my quote, but I say it all the time, and I know they all say that they got this quote from me: "Rising tides raise all ships."
Mm.
I truly believe that, and we see it. We can see it. We watch it.
Yeah.
I was just pointing out today a lot of the streamers that because Twitch tells you these are the streamers you have in
Yeah.
common. Like they're all super high in percentages, and that's because my community is somebody else's community. We
Yeah.
share the community, we raid each other, we support each other. If somebody needs guests on to do something, they'll step in. If I have a cancellation, if I have my off the pod show, which is my other non-podcast show, if
Hmm.
I have off the pod and I have a guest cancel, they get sick or something, I can literally say, hey, I need someone to step in, and I'll get a handful of people
Mm.
that at a drop of a dime will be that night's guest.
Oh, that's
Period.
awesome. That's
So
amazing. I love
that's
that.
community right there,
That's
and
such.
they're amazing.
That's so cool. Like that's amazing. You have someone like at the drop of a hat to just like I got you. So you said before this wasn't initially like your full time job, but it is now. How did you
Yes,
transition from your regular day job to doing this full time? Because this streaming and podcasting and producing is not easy. It's not for the
it's
faint of heart.
not. It's a pain in the ass sometimes.
Sometimes you're like, what am I doing and why?
Yeah,
Why? Like, how did you transition to from day job to this?
it was serendipity. The
Mm-hmm.
job that I was working at um, was not going well. At the end of the year, so I was still kind of self-employed. I was an independent contractor,
Okay.
and I was driving. I was driving and delivering stuff for other people.
Mm-hmm.
The company that I worked with, that basically gave out my paychecks, at the end of the day, the work I was receiving didn't match up with the insurance I was paying, didn't match
Mm-hmm.
up with the gas I was spending, the food I was spending, the time I was away, the damages on the vehicle. At the end of the day, at the end of the year,
Mm-hmm.
when I go to taxes, they're like, yeah, you lost 7 grand.
Ooh.
You didn't earn any money. You spent more money than you earned.
Oh, my heart. Oh, that hurts.
So eventually it was to the point where I was like, okay, my wife has a really good paying job, really well
Mm-hmm.
paying job. And she said, listen, this isn't this isn't working for you. It stresses her out because I'm on the road. I get in an accident. Eventually, numerically, you're going to get into an accident. If you
Right.
drive every day for 8, 9, 10 hours a day, numerically, eventually, you're going to get
Right.
into an accident. It's going to happen. And so that was stress. She wasn't sure if she was going to call me one day and I wasn't going to answer because I got in a car accident, or if I wasn't going to answer because I was going to the bathroom. She didn't know.
Oh
And it
God.
was stressing her out. And we have stuff at home, and we have pets, we have chickens, we have dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So it made more sense for me to pursue this full time, as long as I could maintain the few bills that were mine,
Mm-hmm.
She would cover the rest until I got this thing going. And it's been a year and a half now, maybe a year. It's been a year now. I think it's
Okay.
been a year. So it's been a year now that I've been doing it, and I'm able to pay what little bills I have. But don't get me wrong, it's not gloriousness that everyone thinks it is. I'm not. I'm not making. Let's just say if I went and worked at McDonald's, I'd probably be making more.
Okay. So, would you then recommend someone to do this? And if you did, what would you tell them the steps should be?
Start. Don't set boundaries. Don't make excuses for not doing it.
Okay.
Don't make excuses for not. Oh, my microphone's not good enough. My camera's not good enough. My thing's not good enough. Find a way and do it if that's what you want to do. Um, Number two is realize you're not going to be overnight sensation immediately.
Right.
You're not going to get 1,000 viewers. I've been doing this for 3 years,
Mm,
right? And like you just said, I'm barely past 1,000 followers on Twitch. Our podcast is a different story.
that's different.
That's different. Those are way different. But as far as streaming goes, put in a time, make a schedule, follow a schedule,
Yeah.
make sure that everybody knows what that schedule is and keep to it. Don't make excuses. Understandably, mental health issues, physical health issues, take care of yourself, take sick days, take a vacation here and there, but make a schedule, follow the schedule, stick to
Right.
the schedule, period, end of subject.
Hundred
um,
percent.
those are three of the biggest ones that I say. So yeah.
So, if you encounter someone and they came to you and said like a Gen Con or something, and you're like, I watch your podcast and I want to emulate what you do. I listen to your podcast. I want to emulate what you do. I watch you on Twitch. I want to emulate what you do. Um, do you think that that person needs a certain type of personality trait or some type of strength that they need to be successful?
Everybody has their own strengths.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has their own strengths. Everybody has something to offer. Now, if you're not talkative and you're quiet and you're mousy and you're super introverted, it's going to be a lot harder. So find out what you're good at and
Right.
stick to it. Don't take ideas, don't just carbon copy something because it's not going to work.
Right.
Take ideas from other places and go, I want to incorporate that a little bit. I want to incorporate this a little bit and do it. Move forward and just incorporate those things. A lot of the stuff I do on the podcast, a lot of that started off with incorporations from things that I liked from other podcasts.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I met Dave Schrader. He's a paranormal podcaster. He had a radio show for a large number of years. He's on Discovery, Holzer Files, uh, and all of that. And he has a show, and I took a lot of stuff from his show that he
Mm-hmm.
used to do. That I just was like, I loved how he introduced himself. He introduced the guest. I want to introduce the guest like that. I want to close the show kind of the way he did. So I took that. There are a couple wrestling podcasts. It's like these are topics that they always brought up. Why do they always bring up this thing about school? You know, it doesn't make sense for the thing. But I realized he had an interest in their upbringing and how that related
Mm-hmm.
to their career. And I've thought that is really cool. I like that idea. I want to incorporate that. So there's just a lot of little things that I get from other shows that I thought was really awesome that I wanted to incorporate. And of course, then you got to add my personality and the things I want to see and hear and the things I want to say. So make it your own. Take ideas, incorporate them, but make the show your own.
So then, what's the idea right now for Epic Realms on Twitch? Like, what's the picture for the next 5 years? What is it going to look like?
Keep making keep making the content that I'm making and adjust based on what the audience is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I just posted new channel point rewards. They have the channel point
Yeah.
challenges where you can get on them, and I've realized that just doing one doesn't matter because everybody just thinks they're pointing to the one. But if you do three,
Ooh.
and if you're not going to be able to hit all three, they're going to put their points where they want to put the points on the shows that they want to see. And I can tell, okay, they want to have a paranormal show. They want to have a jump scare show. They want to have a thing where I'm drinking alcohol and whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They can then tell me this is the content that I want to see. And they're usually still one shots, but if they keep going well and they keep wanting to do them, then maybe it'll become a permanent thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is also like, what do I want to play? What do I want to do? If
Speak.
the game I'm playing and I don't like it, then eventually I'm going to get burnt out. And if
Yeah.
I'm not having fun, the chat's not having fun.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. So you just spoke about games, and you play so many different games. Like you play a lot.
What?
I I have a few that I like to play once in a while, but you play a lot. So how do you pick the games that you play? Because some of them are very interesting. Some of them are very like par for the course for Twitch, but some of them are not. How do you pick the games that you play?
It's my interest. It's
Mm-hmm.
110% my interest. My friends, sometimes somebody will buy me a game, be like, you should try this. Okay, you bought me the game. I'll try it. If I
Right.
like it, then I'll play it on stream, right? Oftentimes it's what am I addicted to right now?
Okay.
So if I start playing Baldur's Gate, I'm like, this is an amazing game. I'm going to play it. Baldur's Gate was one of those ones that I was going to play on stream regardless. I
Yeah.
was a fan of all of them. Cyberpunk was one of those ones. Like somebody bought me. I knew I was going to like it. I'm going to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I see other streamers. They're playing a game, and I go, that's a cool game. I want to try that game.
Okay.
So I do
Okay.
that. Skull and Bones was one of those games where I've been waiting for that since 2018.
Really, you like Skull and Bones?
I don't play it anymore, but I
Okay.
was when it first came out. I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
After the expansion, and there's only one reason I stopped playing it, but
Okay.
I enjoyed Skull and Bones. I was waiting for it, like I said, since 2018. I'm a big pirate fanatic. You give me anything piratey, I'm gonna want to play it.
Okay, gotcha. So,
So
I wasn't a big Skull and Bones fan because it felt very like I know what they were going for, and I feel like they missed the mark. So,
they did, they did,
yeah,
they
they
did. I
definitely missed
tried
the
to enjoy. My thought was is I put in if you put in over 500 hours on a game that you paid for, you got your money's worth.
right, right.
If you put in 1,000 hours on a game, you got your money's worth. If you're only on Xbox Pass
Yeah,
and you put in 500-600 hours on Xbox Pass and you're paying $15 for it, don't complain about the game because you got your money's worth. You
right,
played the hell out of that game for $15.
right, right.
I paid for the $99, the big full everything. I got all
Mm-hmm.
the bells and whistles on it, and I got at the end of the day, I still feel like I got my money's worth out of it. Will I go
Okay,
back? There's a couple things that they fix. I'll go back and play it,
okay,
but
okay.
but yeah, it didn't have like the ship is your character, right? That's
Yeah,
that's that's the thing with that. But,
it didn't hit for me. And I get it.
and it
Some people
doesn't.
like it doesn't. It's fine,
There
but
are a lot of people that didn't like that game,
yeah. So
and I get that people have different tastes in games, different flavors in games, and I don't hate on people for not liking games I like, and I
mhm,
generally don't hate on people for the opposite, right?
right, right. So you spoke about Baldur's Gate, and it
Yes.
was hugely, and it still is very much hugely popular. Some people have grown their channels based off Baldur's Gate. Um, how often do you play games that are super popular like that for your channel? And
If it's a game I like and a game I want to play, I don't usually care about what's popular.
okay,
Oftentimes, if I see it's super popular, when I first started, I'm like, at first it's like, if it's super popular, I want to get on the ground floor. I want to do day one. I want to get on there before everyone else.
right,
But that doesn't necessarily work out. You get on and everybody else is doing it. All the
everybody's there.
people. And then I realized that all of the $1 million earners on Twitch, they'll play the big popular game for 2 days and then they're on to something else. They're on to
Mm-hmm.
their main game. They're back to their whatever makes them their bread and butter. So I oftentimes find out that the second, third day of
Mm-hmm.
a game release is usually the day to stream a super popular game.
Oh, okay.
Because all of the super big people that are drawing all the numbers away
Mm-hmm.
um, will do that. Because for me, at this point in the game, my goal is to get on that front page where you load the page and you see like three pictures of streamers.
Yeah.
I'm be there. So if you scroll once or twice, you'll find me. You go, okay, this person doesn't have 1,000 people watching it, but they
Mm-hmm.
also don't have 3 people watching it.
Right.
I can go in there and go, okay, this is somebody who's got an audience, but they might actually talk to me, and that's kind of where I'm at right now
Mm-hmm.
for discoverability, and that's kind of what I aim for. Oftentimes, not always.
Not always. Okay. So you, like I said before, you kind of market yourself as not only a gamer, a podcaster, streamer, but also TTRPG.
Yeah, yeah.
What is your love out of all of those things?
What do you mean?
Like, what is the your out of TTRPG and just regular games and podcasting and performing? What is the one thing you would do if you couldn't do anything else?
Oh, like something other than those?
Yeah.
I would love to go back to. I would love to go back to acting a little bit or
Ooh.
performing. I used to work at Renaissance festivals.
Oh.
I'd love to have time to go back and perform at Renaissance festivals again. I just don't have the time.
Oh,
Uh,
that's so much fun.
it was one of my it's a joy. It was probably been 8 years now since I performed. I had a pirate character uh, named Captain Maxwell Drake. A lot of people know pirates is a theme for
Mm-hmm.
me. You'll see a couple of my emotes are pirate themed, and some of my
Yeah.
emotes, some of my alerts, stuff like that are pirate themed. And I love playing that character. I love the people I worked with. I love
Hmm.
performing for an audience. I love making adults have fun, joke. You could tell a naughty joke and the adults would be fun. Or if there were kids present, like seeing their eyes light up at some sort of whatever it was that I was doing that was silly or fun or stupid.
Hmm.
It's That was a joy for mine, and I would love to go back and do that again. And I just don't have the time. And I know some of the lead people that are still performing out at some of the Renaissance festivals. They still tell me all the time, "When are you coming back? What can we do?" We have a character at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. He's the king, uh, and I'm not going to say his real name. He tries to keep his real life separate from.
Yeah.
He portrays the king, and he came to me. I went there just for fun last year, and he comes up to me. He's like, "Listen, we need guys like you back out here." And to
Oh.
me, I as a performer, I looked up to him. Like he was one of the top 5 performers out there
Right.
for me. And I always had this thing where it's like when you're out at the Renaissance Festival, when you can tell the difference between somebody who's just dressed in a costume and
Hmm.
somebody else, and you can go, that other person is a that person works here, as
Right.
opposed to that person just paid a ticket to get in. And let me tell you, the people that pay tickets to get in, their costumes are almost always better than the people that work out there. Not mine, not my costume.
It's like mine is better.
Mine is top notch, right?
So, have you ever thought about just going back to the Renaissance Fair just to, um, I don't know, stream or just enjoy yourself as a patron as opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah,
actual?
I have. We did. That's kind of what I did last year. I
Okay.
went back just to mostly to see people, to see my friends. It was actually more to see all my friends that
Hmm.
still worked out there, and just touch base with them all and let them all know how much I miss them and how much I cared about them. So, so yeah. Of course, wrestling you can see over. Where's the thing right here?
Yeah.
You see my old wrestling boots. I used to be a professional wrestler too. Here's my wrestling boots right
I
there.
was just about to ask about that.
Yeah.
That is a big difference between streaming and acting. Well, I guess acting kind of was, but why wrestling?
Performing. It's still performance. Still a performance art. It's a stunt show.
Yeah,
You're
that's
still
true.
telling a story. You're still telling a story, especially when you're not. If you're not on TV, you don't have weeks of storytelling like they
Hmm.
do on TV to build up a story. You have 10 minutes.
Okay.
You have 10 minutes to tell this story between these two guys in this competition. You have that story to tell, and you have to make them believe it. They know it's not real,
Right.
but they have to get into the moment. Theater's not real either. When you go to Broadway,
Right.
that's not real. That's not a real sword fight. They didn't really kill him, you know. But at the same time, like you still want to make that willing suspension of disbelief.
Right.
And wrestling is theater. It's improv. It's improv theater, really, especially when you're doing live shows like that.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have to do things fly at the moment because you don't know how the audience is going to react. You don't know how the other guy's going to react. You don't know if something's going to happen in the ring. You don't know if somebody's going to get hurt. If something screws up, the audience is different. You might do a show one time. You could do the same match at 3 different shows, 3 different places, the same move for move set, and
Hmm.
a drop toe hold in one match, they'll go nuts, and you're like, for a drop toe hold, what the hell? And for another match, it might be something completely different. And
Right.
sometimes they cheer, sometimes they just sit and watch and clap. You don't know what you're going to get, and so you have to interact and you have to work that crowd and entertain them and get them to do what you want. And it's like GMing,
Right.
like GMing. Figure out what the audience wants, help them to tell that story and get them to go the direction you want them to go. You're taking them on the story, they're not taking you on a story.
So I was wondering how much of a toll it's even though I know it's acting, I know it's choreographed a lot of times, but how much of a toll does wrestling take on your body?
A lot,
Mm.
a lot, especially if you've been doing. I did it for 6 years,
Wow.
um, and I felt really good. I was young at the time. I was in my 20s when I was
Hmm.
doing it, but today I wake up. I can feel it today. Like I know the toll it took on me. I
Right.
know people. I know people who work for WWE.
Hmm.
There are people. I had the Beer City Bruiser, who worked for Ring of Honor on the podcast. I used to
Hmm.
wrestle with him. We didn't realize it until we got in front of each other. I was like, I know you. You used to be Dinty Moore. You were Dinty Moore back in the day. He's like, yeah, I was. Do I know? I'm like, yeah, it's the Dark Wolf. He's like, holy shit. So
That's awesome.
yeah, and like, yeah, it takes its toll. And, we chat a little bit on the side about that, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it does take its toll in the long run. And you don't know if that's your full-time job. Like if you get injured, you're out. So you wrestle injured.
Mm,
You
ooh,
do, because that's the only way you got to pay bills when you get it to a certain point.
really? So there's no like line of duty injury type of thing happening.
No, no, no. You work for yourself. You unless you get your own insurance. But if you don't work, you don't get paid, right?
Oh my
And
god,
if you
that's
don't
true.
get paid, you don't pay your
That's
bills.
100% true. That's 100% true. So, I want to go back to TTRPGs a little
Yeah,
bit.
let's go back.
Um, Wizards of the Coast have
Yes.
been doing some things lately with their magic users and their non magic users, but they seem to have put a target on their rangers. What is your opinion about what they're doing with their classes, and what do you think their direction they're trying to go in?
I've been so the last handful of years I've been so doing other RPGs that I've
Mm-hmm.
only been playing Wizards of the Coast stuff tangentially. So I play some here and there when other people run it. I don't pay super close attention to what they do much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
However, for a handful of years, they have been involved in some shady stuff.
Yeah.
Just say that. However, in the last couple months, I've been quite surprised by what they've done. To me, it feels like they're trying to repair the relationship with the community. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the things they've done lately is literally what people have been asking for.
Right.
They're creating new stuff, and they're putting stuff in. They've backtracked. Not only did they backtrack, but they've over backtracked
Yeah.
some of the things done, and they're like, okay, here, we're giving this to everybody, we're opening this up to everybody, we're trying to include people. So from what I've seen, it feels like they're trying to mend a bridge, and
Mm-hmm.
they genuinely want to help. Now, does Hasbro want to do those things?
No.
Probably not. But does Wizards of the Coast, if they're are they doing their damn bestest to mend the fences and repair that? Yes. Are they going to send Pinkertons to someone's house? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? It could happen. I mean, it could be a possibility. You never know. I mean, maybe he might come to our house.
And if you know, you know. If I say the Pinkerton comment, if you know, you know.
Exactly, exactly. So, do you think that a lot of people are going to jump ship, like when they went from 3.5 to 4E, people kind of jumped ship and went to Pathfinder. Do you think that's going to happen when the one D&D comes out, the new PHB comes out?
I think it depends on what their other options are. There's so many good tabletop RPGs now, but the
Mm-hmm.
problem is there's a standard bearer. D&D is the standard bearer. They
Yes.
are the ones that are hauling the ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care as much as I love all of the other creators that are out there. There isn't anyone that is the workhouse of tabletop RPGs
Right.
like D&D. Whenever you have no idea how many times. Okay, this is not true. You probably have an idea how many people when I'm running. Say I'm running a Deadlands game. Say
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm running Mutants and Masterminds. They go, "Oh, you were playing D&D yesterday." Well, no, I wasn't.
That's,
I was playing this, but
yeah.
people tabletop RPGs to a lot of people is D&D. That's
Yes.
all it is.
Right.
The word D&D is synonymous with every tabletop RPG to so many people. Um, I don't know where I was going with this, and I got completely off tangent.
So I. Where's my water? Oh my god.
Right there, here, I'll have mine too. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the chaos.
Hi everyone. Hi Jen. Hi Maddie. Hi Taylor. How are you guys? Thank you for coming in. And hi Booksy. It's Book Waffles. So what I was asking is, do you think that people are going to be jumping ship um, from D and
Right.
D, yeah, to
I,
another TPTRPG?
I don't. I think once they realize there's other options and they
Mm-hmm.
see those other options, they're going to try them, regardless of whether it's because of the change or not. There's always, me included,
Mm-hmm.
always people that are at a certain age that they started at a certain edition. They, in this case, they started fifth edition. That's what they learned. That's all they've ever
Yes.
known. And
Mm-hmm.
then they're changing the editions. And if they stop supporting fifth edition, they're going to keep playing fifth edition.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
not going to. They're not going to. They're like. There are so many people. I don't want to change.
Right.
I already have all the books. I already spent my money. Now, if I had $1 for every time I say that,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be able to buy all of my second edition books back. and my third edition books back.
Right.
And I didn't buy fourth edition. I went to
Ooh, bad, 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 bad.
my
Blasphemy.
apologies to my friend Eric Scott to be sorry I didn't like fourth edition.
Oh, oh, hurt my heart. Thank you so much for saying that. I love fourth edition and I have it back there somewhere. Um, so, what is one thing that you love about TTRPGs then? Because D&D aside, TTRPGs have been expanding a lot. Like you see a lot of new games coming out all the time. Different systems, Cipher system is one of them that people are kind of gravitating toward with the new PHB coming out. What do you think the future of TTRPGs is in the gaming community?
So to go to the first part of the question, you there's an immersive storytelling.
Mm,
I like the immersive storytelling. Uh, I've always liked to tell stories, whether I'm wrestling, whether I'm a performer at a Renaissance festival, whether I'm telling a podcast, whether I'm writing a short story. I like to tell stories. I
mm-hmm.
like stories to be told. I like to read stories. I like to listen to stories. I like to be told stories. Um, so the interactive storytelling of it is something that I love about tabletop RPGs. There's also something to be said about forgetting what is bothering you.
Yes.
And again, that goes to all of those same things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people watch wrestling to forget. People watch plays to forget. People go to theater. They watch movies to forget.
Right.
They listen to music to forget. That is a 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 12-hour time of sitting down at a tabletop RPG where you get to be someone else
Yeah.
and you can forget that work sucks. You can forget the world of politics. You can forget, you know, somebody who stabbed you in the back 30 years ago. You can forget whatever it is that you want to forget.
Mm.
You can forget that and sit down and enjoy yourself and tell a story and put your feet in somebody else's shoes for a little bit of while and get a little bit of reprieve from the stresses of the real world. Where tabletop role playing goes from here, it's been so much fun to watch it evolve, and there have been so many evolutions that I would have never saw coming.
Right.
The pandemic changed D&D and tabletop role playing forever.
Mm-hmm.
The sphere, you know, with the onset of things like Zoom, Discord, Google Hangouts, and Roll20, and you know, all of these tabletop simulators. It's been crazy to watch that,
Yeah.
but also to watch it go from you have minis to you don't have minis to you have minis, but they're actually really important
Mm-hmm.
uh, for planning and strategizing. You know, watching this evolution of how the games play out, going from THACO to
Oh.
Daikini, you know, going from complicated, you know, you have 30,000 skills down to like, okay, you only need like 8 skills,
Right.
going from rolling your dice and I got 57 on my skill check at level 5 to going, I got a 5. That's still really good.
Right.
Um, and just seeing the ingenuity and the creativeness of all of these game designers. I don't know where it's going. I can't see where it's going, but I'm excited to see where it's going.
That's amazing. So, you said before that you're about community, and TTRPG community is very oddly close knit and not at the same time. Um, how do I think I just lost? Okay, we're about to drop some frames here.
Uh-oh. It's like
Okay,
dropping some beats, but we're dropping some
it's yeah,
frames.
yeah, it happens once. It's gonna happen. It's okay. We're okay for now. Fingers crossed. Um, made me lose my thought because I was like, no, no, don't leave me. So I lost my train of thought because of that. That makes me unhappy. But TTRPG community is niche and also close knit, but oddly not sometimes. Every few months, there's a controversy within the TTRPG community. Recently, it has
Oh,
been it has been um, the opinion of some people, not all, obviously, that having people of color and black people in fantasy isn't realistic. What is your thought on on that idea, and why do you think those type of like I guess controversies come up?
that's bull to me. Everybody, I'm all here's my take on this. My take is gamers are geeks.
Right.
Tabletop role playing comes from geekers. They were the people in school that were bullied and
Yeah.
they were kicked out. They were the outcasts. They were the lesser people. They were the people that didn't have a place. They didn't fit in anywhere, in school, in work, in anything. That's where tabletop role play comes from. They are not the people that should be saying people can't be included.
Right.
Tabletop role playing, they are the people that were shunned. They
Hmm.
are not the people that do the shunning.
Right.
They shouldn't be. They should never be. Everybody should be included. Period. End of freaking subject.
Love it.
And if I, and I say this all the time, like everybody is included. I don't care who you are. Everybody is included. Everybody should be represented.
Hmm.
Period. Are you going for a historical story? Great. So what?
Right.
Change it. It's your narrative. You're telling a story.
Hmm.
Tell the story. Tell the story however works for your players and yourself. If somebody wants to play a giant robot in a D&D thing, find a workaround. That's
Hmm.
what Warforged is.
Yeah, it's
There you
true.
go.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I mean, you look at Eberron. Eberron is the ultimate way of working around to
Yeah.
let people play whatever the heck they want.
Yeah, I never thought about that. You're right.
Play a different system. If somebody wants to play something, change what you're playing.
Right. Right. So another bit of a controversy that's happened is about how much information should their GMs and DMs give their players, and this comes around fudging dice. Uh, I look during my session zeros. I don't really fudge dice. I tell people I don't fudge dice. If you die, I'm so sorry. But or if my monsters don't hit because the dice aren't working, I'm so sorry. We'll figure something out. But what's your take on fudging dice and how much you tell your players in session zero and going forward?
I don't fudge dice usually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it. And here's the thing: you do what is comfortable for you and your players. Talk with them ahead of time. Let them know. But for me, I've had so many characters die; it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's the ones that survive that are special.
Yes.
It's the ones where you go, you're at your last. You've got one bullet in the chamber.
Yeah.
You've got 3 hit points left, and the big bad is coming over you, and he's
Mm-hmm.
about to kill you. And you reach up and you pull the trigger and you crit, and you roll maximum damage, and you get to re-roll a couple times, and he dies.
And you feel
And
epic.
there is no, and the GM wasn't pulling dice.
Yes.
That becomes a moment that you will remember forever.
Yeah.
If your characters cannot die, then they won't make the decisions they would otherwise.
Right.
Just like in video games. If you play a video game and you just got to respawn, oh well, you died. If you don't get to respawn and you have to sit for a half hour, you're going to get much better at that game real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I agree. I agree. So another thing is that there's this whole thing, and it was very brief, but I thought it was hilarious that the real BBEG of every TTRPG are rules lawyers. What do you think? What do you think about rules? I think it's hilarious. I think it's the funniest thing in the world that they're like every tabletop RPG. That's the bad guy. What do you think about rules lawyers and how do you handle it at your tables?
I like rules lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, I like to know the rules.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person, if I don't know the rules, I want to look it up. I don't care. I can be at a table. I can be a player at a table. I can have the rules wrong or right, whatever. The GM will make a call, and I'll say, okay, the GM made the call. That's the GM's call to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I will go look up the rule. So I can be clear on whether or not I was right or if I was wrong. Or
Okay.
they will tell me, this is the rule. I will look it up. If they were wrong, I might say, hey, by the way, just because I wanted to know,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to clarify for myself, and it's very thing, you don't want to be confrontational. I wanted to clarify it for myself. I looked it up. You were right. Or I looked it up. Here it is for future reference.
Mm-hmm.
Use it
Mm-hmm.
if you want. If you want to continue to make your ruling the way you rule, people make house rules, and eventually they get to the point where they think that that's the actual rule, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what house rules are for. So if a rules lawyer, if I'm GMing and a rules lawyer is like, well, actually, yeah, because we all hear it. Well,
Yeah.
actually, this is the rule. I'll say, like, pull it up for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see it. But for now, for this particular moment, this is the ruling I'm going to make. For future reference, I'll reference that.
Mm-hmm.
Find the rule for me. I'm not going to retcon it. But next time it comes across, if I've now that I've seen the rule, we will do it. But for now, this is the rule as it stands. But thank you for bringing it up to me, and now I know the rule. For future reference, I will use the actual rulings,
Right.
unless it's a game where like I have a house rule where I want to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you're playing third edition, it's like, well, I want to have sneak and move silently one skill. I'm gonna freaking do it. I don't care what the rules say. That's what I'm gonna do.
I love
And
it.
then, and then we're gonna move to Pathfinder. Uh, then we're gonna move to fifth edition. Whatever.
Whatever, whatever. So, how many D&D editions have you played so far?
Um, AD&D, D&D second edition, third edition, and 3.5 because there were two for a
Yeah,
while.
there's
Third
three.
edition, and then there's
Mhm.
3.5. I did not. Okay, I played one game of fourth edition. I paid one game of it just because it was there. But we kept playing 3.5. We kept playing 3.5
Mhm.
until right at the end of fourth edition. Then eventually everybody pulled me dragging and screaming into Pathfinder. It was Pathfinder Society that finally got me out of 3.5. It was
Oh,
Society
really?
being able to go publicly and play games with one character at a bunch of tables with all these different people that I was like, this is like living Greyhawk, but cool.
That's it. Oh, that's
And,
true.
and
Yeah.
so, yeah, that kind of brought me in. That was like, okay, Pathfinder it is.
Okay. So, if you had to choose then between D&D and Pathfinder, which would it be?
Right now,
Mhm.
right now it would be Pathfinder because I know the rules way better. Don't get me wrong, I do love fifth edition. I
Mhm.
do really enjoy fifth edition. I like playing it. All of our games just happen to be there, and we haven't finished those stories yet.
Right.
So I've played a few D&D. We started a couple of D&D campaigns on stream, but then the OGL stuff came up, and we're like, we're just going to
Mm.
stop with fifth edition, and we might bring fifth edition back here and there on our stream. But I do like fifth edition. I like how it's built. I like um, their online the D&D online character maker. I can't remember the thing because I've got the brain of a goldfish. D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond.
Yes. Yes.
I
D&D
really
Beyond.
like that. I have a friend who's legally blind, so making character sheets he can't do, but on there he can zoom it in and he can,
Mhm.
build it on there. So it's really nice and inclusive for people with visually impaired problems. So
Right. So, and Space just touched on it. I was about to ask that question. I love when you guys anticipate me a little bit, but fifth edition is accessible and intuitive, and it has made people people come to D&D easily. Um,
yeah,
do you think this new edition is going to be more of people kind of coming into D&D, or is going to push people away?
I think it depends on what pop culture does.
Mm, okay.
Fifth edition, I honestly don't think fifth edition would be where it was if it wasn't for popular culture. If it wasn't for the VLDLs, if it wasn't for the critical roles,
Right.
if it wasn't for a movie that came out, if it wasn't for new audiobooks and
Mm-hmm.
promotions and stuff like that, I think that it's pop culture is what really helped fifth edition happen.
Okay. Right.
So I don't think we would get what we've got now if it weren't for all of those things I mentioned, and not just those. There's plenty of others. Dimension 20, and
Right.
all of those. There are so many places now, pop culturally, and as we consume media, that have made fifth edition what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong; it's still D&D. Like I said, it's the flag bearer of tabletop role playing.
Yes, of course.
But for a while there, it really you were starting to wonder if they were going away forever.
I really thought so though until actually right now, even though it's on the tip of my tongue, that TV show with Vecna. What the hell is the name of the TV show?
Big
On
Bang
net?
Theory.
No, on Netflix.
Uh,
Oh, anyway. But there's
Big
a
Bang Theory is another one where they're role
yeah,
playing.
they're role play anyway. But do you see yourself Stranger Things? Thank you. Do you see yourself taking your different tables to the level of the Dimension 20 or VLDL or Critical Role?
I would love to. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to. My players would love to. Our GMs would love to. I think that they've got a lot of the skills
Mm-hmm.
to do that. I think we're also missing some key things. Production.
Okay.
Like we don't have that production, right? We
Right.
don't
Right.
have the big stage. We don't have the big set. We don't have, everybody's just using whatever web cameras they have and whatever microphones they have. I
Mm-hmm.
would love to have a better set, a better setup. Be able to plan it a little bit better. What a lot of people don't know is some of those shows they plan ahead. Like this is
Yeah.
kind of where we're going with this story.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things I, as the GM, am kind of going to bring to you. So keep these in mind for your reactions, so you're not sitting there going,
Uh,
hold on, let me look at my spell list. 3 hours later, oh yeah, I wanted to do this. So there's some of that production or figuring out what you're going to do, or like, hold on, let me retcon this, or whatever, that kind of stuff. Um, we do, and it gets edited out in a show like a Critical Role
right.
or a Dimension 20 or something like that. And I don't know, do I want to keep that stuff in there to keep it more realistic, or does
Hmm.
it take away from the show?
I mean, VLDL kind of they kind of keep that stuff in there, which is actually one of the reasons I think they're becoming so much more popular. Um, but so I think you could keep it in there, but they're unique in that they keep it in there because they're also a comedy group.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but if you were leaning toward more like a drama group or something more like Dimension 20, do you think it would work?
I think it will, depending on which people we have in it.
Okay.
All of every player, every GM has strengths and weaknesses. We always talk about our friend group, our personal close friend group,
Yeah.
and all of the people at the GM. They all have different skills. They all present things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Matt, he goes by Zine in our chat.
Mm-hmm.
He, you can give you can give him a module. You can give him a pre-recorded adventure for your story, and if you don't see him pulling it out, you don't know he's running a pre-made adventure.
Really?
You will not have a clue that he's running a pre-made adventure. He ran an entire story. I didn't play. I'd never played Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm.
He literally ran Dragon Age, the story from the original video game, for us. We had no idea. He had it all written
Wow.
out. He step by step, all the choices you have. He had that,
Wow.
and he like, did it. Modules, books. He had it all. Like, you wouldn't know that he's running it.
Oh wow. Wow.
Um, so yeah, everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. I certainly have mine. I couldn't tell you them all off the top of my head. I probably have more weaknesses than strengths, but I like to tell a complete story. I like to include things. I like to have little hidden pieces that come back later.
Right.
Um, some people like to really have the immersive storytelling and not have the combat. Some
Mm.
people they're really good at political games, intrigue games. Some people are really good at running combat. Everybody's got different skills, and that works for players as well. Some players are really good at certain things, and some are not. So I would cherry pick from the people if I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to run, say, a Dimension 20 style game, or like a game of that style. I would probably pick very specific people to play characters in a very specific GM to do and fit that task.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, quick question though. It's always like you just talk about production and sets and directing and all these different things, but I've always thought that people who do social media, people who do Twitch and TikTok and all these different things are pretty much producer, director, actor, writer, all in one person. You've already said that you're an actor and that you obviously produce your own show here with the podcast. Where do you see yourself in the other roles that I've mentioned in the future, and what do you plan on? How do you plan on expanding
If I could,
them?
if say we get to the point where I'm making $100,000 or something ridiculous on Twitch, then yes,
That'd be
that's
amazing.
that's ridiculous to me. If I got to the point where I could hire people to do some of these other roles, I
Mm.
would.
Oh,
If
nice.
I could, I think one of the first people I would hire to bring in would probably be an editor.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
across the board, an editor, somebody to cut that on. Maybe a like I do a lot of my own design work. I am not an artist, but I can create. I think I can do decent for some overlays.
Mm.
I've got a couple friends who are artists that do art for me for other stuff, and they're like, "Hey, this is mine, but I'll let you use it for a background for your stuff." So oftentimes you'll see tabletop RPGs. I'll have this cool background,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not mine. It's somebody made it for other stuff, and I get to
Mm-hmm.
use it. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, other than TTRPGs,
yeah.
okay, other than Ren fairs and all the other, what do you enjoy playing and doing?
Uh I like doing yard work. I go out in the yard. We have chickens. We have gardening.
I want chicken.
A lot, yeah, we have 5 chickens. I like doing outdoor stuff. I like going fishing. We do
Mm-hmm.
hiking. We have a camping trip we do every year with a bunch of friends out to a cabin. I like doing a lot of outdoor stuff. I grew up in the Boundary Waters of Minnesota when I was a kid, so like I grew up in the wilds.
Hmm.
If I could, we always talk about having a hobby farm, and that would be a lot of fun to just be like, yeah, I'd love to have a couple of goats and maybe a couple of pigs and whatever, and just for not for survival purposes, just
Right.
have them and be able to do that, just because I love animals
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I like a lot of that stuff. I still play video games on the side. I like watching TV shows. I like all the things that we mentioned. I like doing all of that stuff. Uh, so yeah, I have interests in almost everything. I love music. I
Hmm.
have such
Hmm.
a wide variety of music. There almost isn't a style of music I don't really like or can't. I can find a musician of every that's in almost every category that I like.
Oh, that's awesome.
Some are harder than others, but
So,
I do love music and stuff like that. So.
so I have a question for you. As you said, you have some weaknesses and that you couldn't really think about as a DM. But what advice would you give someone who is transitioning from player to DM? Because that's a very different experience. You come in. Most people come in as players. They don't start off as DMs. So if someone wanted to DM for you or for anyone else, what advice would you give them before they started?
So if you've been playing, you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
So you get that. Um, don't be too concerned. Have fun, right? I'm guaranteed everybody you ask that question, one of the top things you're going to hear back is have fun.
Yes. Right.
Make
Have
sure
fun.
your players are having. If you're
Right.
having fun and they're having fun, cool. They know if you're playing with people, if you're playing with your regular group and you're like, hey, I'm going to try GMing for my first time, they know it's your first time,
Yeah.
and guaranteed your regular GM is going to be very excited to not be the GM. They're going to be like, yes, here, take all of
Take
the stuff you GM, let me run, and they'll your GM, your regular GM will help.
it.
They'll help you along the way. If you don't know a role, be like, what's the rule for this? What should I do? And if your regular GM is in that group, they'll help you out. They'll be like, yeah, this is what I would do. It's your game. Do it how you want, but this is what I would do. At least
Okay.
that's how I would do it. If somebody new to role playing would be like, I want to GM my first game with you guys,
Oh,
what would it be? I'm notorious for trying to sneak skirt around things and try and find alternative methods of doing things. I'm
yeah.
notorious. I'm notorious for getting around obstacles with weird cheesy methods.
I have watched your gameplay,
Oh yeah,
and
I
and I'm like, you can't do that. How can it? That's not. You can't do that. Why are
and
you doing
sometimes the
that?
GM says no. Sometimes the GM's like, no, that doesn't work. But sometimes they're like, that's a really fun idea. I'm gonna roll with it.
Yeah. So I've been trying to figure this out. How do you get your DMs and your GMs to allow you? They don't always do it. I've seen some games where like, yeah, no, um, but a lot of the times they've allowed you to do the rule of cool a lot. How do they do it for? Do you think they do it for entertainment purposes? Because you're really good at that. I've seen some of the games like that is such a cool idea. Wish I would thought of that.
A lot of it is the GM.
Okay.
It's not me. I come up with an idea and they roll with it and they make it way cooler than I would have thought of.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I tried one the other day. We were playing a new RPG. It's not a new RPG. It's from like Switzerland or Scandinavia. It's a Scandinavian game called Dragonbane.
Hmm.
And we had just took out some goblins that were fishing, and there was a hallway, and we knew that there were other goblins in this other room, and we knew money was a thing. And I was like, and we were going to set up an ambush. Well, how do we get them out? And I was like, here, hold on. And so I tied some money on a fishing line. I was like, like you see in the video thing. And everybody was laughing. We thought it was hilarious. It didn't work. The GM didn't go for it, but it was still a funny idea.
Right.
And they saw they made their check. They saw everybody hiding. They came out and they attacked us. They ignored the gold, whatever. But it was still funny. And so it could have worked. It might not have worked. Either way, it's still fun. So you just try stuff and have fun with it. And if the
Hmm.
GM is having fun, then the GM will have fun. And if
Oh,
they roll
right.
poorly, then keep in mind it's your ideas aren't always going to work.
They don't always. You're 100% right. They don't always work. So you gave advice about someone just starting going from player to DM, but
Yeah.
every once in a while, I've had this happen to me. I've always been curious what other DMs and GMs think. Someone who's never played before, who's never played
Yes.
D&D, but they've
Yeah.
seen your stream, or they've seen I don't know, Lord Gazumba or whoever, and they
Yeah.
decided I want to DM as my first experience, and I
Yes.
want to go into the deep end of TTRPG. What would you
Happens more often. Happens more often than you know.
really?
In fact, I started when the podcast got going. I had an idea for another show, and I did
Mm,
it. I did 7 episodes of it. It was called Game Masters Workshop because I always was having people coming in. Always having people come in. I've never role played before. What do I do?
right,
How do I GM? How do I get players? How do I whatever? Questions after questions. I don't get those questions very much anymore
right.
because I did this show called the Game Masters Workshop, which you can find. I'm sure it's still. I know it's still on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You can look it up. You can message me. I'll send you links. And I would get people from the industry that I've had on the podcast. I'd get 3 or 4 of them on, and we would answer those questions.
Okay.
They would all of the people that were in the industry, they would say this is what you do for this situation under this, and people could come in and I'd have 3 or 4 questions that I would pre-come up with,
Mm-hmm.
but then that I've heard all the time. They would come up with some,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd have live stream would have a question. I want to get into game mastering. How do I do? What if I have a unruly player? What if I'm at a convention and I'm running a convention table and I get somebody that does this? How do I tackle this subject? How do I become more inclusive? How do I whatever it is? And so we would answer those questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens so often that people are starting a new game and role playing from the beginning and not have an idea. And so I used to have these pieces of advice. Now my piece of advice is go watch those episodes because it answers all of your questions. But what I would say is kind of learn the rules. At least get an idea, get a
Yeah.
framework of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling a story. Get people together that are either friends, either they don't know how to play,
Right.
that they want to learn how to play, or get people there that do know how to play and let them help you learn.
Right.
Those are two of the biggest things I would say is base it on your things and make sure to set expectations.
Right.
Make sure they know. Make sure also that you know what they want, what your players want.
Okay.
Because if they don't want something, then don't give them that. Don't give them something they don't want. Get an understanding. If you're don't railroad them, but if you have a hard time ad libbing, then just say, hey, I don't mean to railroad you, but I don't really have any plans for that. You can be honest. Be honest.
Okay.
Hey, this is what I've got. I'm new at this. I'm really not prepared for you to go into building B.
Right.
I'm not prepared for that. I don't really know what to do because I'm new. Please forgive me. Can we go? I'm hoping you go this way, and you'll learn.
Right.
You'll learn. Part of it is learning what your players want. I always tell people that have been playing a little while when they're like, "How do I not railroad my players?" It's
Yeah.
I say it's simple. It's not simple, but one, know your players.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Know your players. The people at the table know their motivations, and then know those people's characters and know their characters' motivations. What can you do in a story to get their character to want to choose on their own to go to building A?
Right. Right.
How can you tell the story to make them go, I want to go over there? I have one friend, it doesn't matter what character he's playing. If a child is in danger, I don't care he doesn't care what character he's playing, and he doesn't even he realizes it now.
Right.
But if there is a child in danger in any kind of game whatsoever, no matter what character he is playing, he is going out of his way to go that way.
Oh wow. Okay.
Doesn't matter. Now, he didn't know that he did that. It was subconscious. Some of us who were GMs, we knew that. And if we didn't have any other way, we knew that would do it.
That would do it. Right. So
Oh my God, little kid, my kitty lost his, I lost my kitty, and last seed some guy took it to this, whatever,
right. I got you. So, um, what have been some of the obstacles you've encountered at some TTRPG tables or spaces?
rules. We talked a little bit about rules where
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
agreeing on rules. When I was younger, there was a lot of this is the rule, that is the rule. Actually,
Oh gosh, yes.
that used, that used to be a big challenge, both for me and for others. Um, Personality conflicts
Mm,
and the way people would run things have been conflicts in the past. Those are personality conflicts are probably one of the biggest difficulties you're going to get
yeah.
if you don't agree with somebody, or you don't get along with somebody, or you don't think the same way other people do, or you have an idea for your party to do something and somebody thinks that that's a horrible idea for what reason. okay, well, which do you go with? You think their idea is horrible, and they
Right.
think your idea is horrible, and they're not the same. How do you come to a compromise?
Right.
It's, that kind of stuff has always been difficult. As I've gotten older and more mature, if that
Hmm.
comes to the point, I go, let's just do what you wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Because
just.
what I mean, I'm not out anything. Like,
Yeah.
okay, my character dies, like, it goes poorly. It goes, whatever I think the worst case scenario could be for choosing their decision. That's just how the story goes. That's
It's
the
just a
story.
game, and it's just a game.
The game. Don't ruin a friendship over a game, right?
Right.
There's going to be more games. The game could stop tomorrow. It could be a one shot and you don't even know it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So I want to kind of move away from TTRPG for a second, but
Yeah, yeah.
only because you are all over social media. You are on TikTok. You're on Instagram. You're on Twitter. It's still Twitter. I'm not saying X. Everybody can bite me. Um,
I say Twitter/X whenever I say. I'm
I
like on Twitter/X.
refuse. I refuse.
You Sky.
No one can get me to say that it's not X. It's not even a name. That's just a letter. It's Twitter. Um, you're on Discord. You're everywhere. So
The social media formerly known as Twitter.
yes, it's a symbol. You're right because it's a symbol. It's just a symbol. It's totally just a symbol, and I hate it. Um, so
Minnesota represents. Go Prince.
so as a content creator, um, what advice would you give someone starting off as content creation with all these different platforms because they're very different from each other and they react very differently to um, to media that comes out on them.
Yeah, do better than I do. That's my advice. Uh, here's what I should be doing that I just don't have time for.
Okay.
I should be posting. So there's a couple things that are very similar, right?
Hmm.
TikTok, Instagram Reels, Instagram, Facebook Reels,
Hmm.
YouTube Shorts.
Right.
Those four things. I can post the same thing on all of those platforms, and they'll all do fairly well.
Right.
I should be doing them more often. Right now, I think I'm doing them maybe twice, maybe three times a week. It
Hmm.
should be almost daily. It should be daily.
It should be daily.
If
Yeah.
I had the time, I should be posting a video on all of those platforms I just mentioned daily.
Right.
I should be more interactive on Twitter with other people, similar people,
Hmm.
reacting, posting, saying stuff, go live. I have the challenge of what do I focus on,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because social media loves niches. We talked about that earlier.
They
Social
do.
media loves niches.
So bad.
So I can have 4 TTRPG guests on the podcast
Hmm.
in a row, but then after that, I'll have somebody from a TV show. I'll have a chef from a TV show on
Hmm.
the next show. Um, it could be TTRPG adjacent,
Right.
but now all of my tags, all of my hashtags, all the things, all the topics are widely different than the entire series of TTRPG. And now that social media goes, well, this isn't relevant. This doesn't fit into this puzzle. We're not going to show this to all the people that
Right.
watches. So that's a challenge.
Hmm.
So a lot of times you got to find that niche. You got to find that connection in there. Otherwise, you have to spend money to promote. But
I
being
refuse.
regular, just like I said about Twitch, have a schedule,
Hmm.
go it accordingly. Social media is the same way. You've got to, and I don't do it as I should. I went to college for marketing.
Hmm.
Communication was my degree. Is my degree. Communication with an emphasis on marketing and social media.
Hmm.
Uh, and so yeah, you've got to be consistent daily on all of the platforms.
Hmm.
If you're not,
God help
not,
you.
not help you.
So we talked about community earlier. Community on Twitch is very, very tight, and it goes across all channels. I'll go to a regular gaming channel like Avant or something, and I'll find people from there who are also in the TTRPG space. How different is it of a community on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube compared
I
to
think
Twitch?
it's I think everybody's got their toes dipped into it. Everybody that I follow, like again, for me, geek is kind of my
You're
my
right.
my realm, geek, which is great for video games. When I do video games a couple days, it's geek.
Right.
So if you're in the geek space, you know what D&D is,
Hmm.
right? You know what it is. It's
Yeah.
there. So whether you're a hardcore D&D player or not, you know what it is, so you
Hmm.
can relate to those things. So I don't think it's hard to say because I can't tell what the algorithm does on all of the things,
Yeah.
right? I know that TikTok's algorithm is really really good about keeping you in that niche. So if
Yes.
you're like D&D, 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 and then you happen across one post that somebody from your D&D community shared that was political, next thing you know, you've got no D&D and it's politics, politics,
Politics,
politics.
politics, yes.
I've got to undo the algorithm. How do I undo the algorithm? Uh, Instagram is a little bit different because you're almost always seeing your friends' feeds with a couple other
Hmm.
things filtered in there.
Right.
If you're scrolling in Reels on Facebook, then it's very much a lot more like the TikTok, but it's more based on just what have you been looking at because it's
Right.
reading your internet usage. Like what are you like? I get a lot of VLDL on my
Hmm.
on my Facebook Reels. I get a lot of I watched a couple. I never watched Big Bang Theory on TV. I watched maybe one or two episodes.
Hmm.
I know more about Big Bang Theory because of Facebook Reels than
Really?
just because it showed up, and I'm like, I like the characters and I like the show, and I probably would sit down and watch it if I had the time. So I enjoyed the little snippets, and so I always watch them. And now it's always I can't open up my Facebook Reels without seeing a clip from Big Bang Theory or Two Broke Girls, or something like that. Just because I can't not watch them because they're always good, they're always entertaining, even if they're little snippets. So
I will say be very careful with what you watch on TikTok because once you start that one thing that you watch, you will. Oh, I have, and now it's an obsession. I just watch these Asian, either Korean or Chinese, or I think there's a few Japanese ones where it's a husband and wife, and they're eating food, but they're doing tricks on each other, like how to get each other's food. I don't know why it's entertaining. It shouldn't be entertaining, but I will watch it for hours. It's really weird. It's bizarre, but you don't be careful. So, what is something that you've encountered though, or rather not encountered, but what is something that you've learned from gaming in general? Not just TTRPGs, but video gaming, uh, TTRPGs of course, but also board games. What have you learned? What life lessons have you learned from that?
how to get along better with people.
Okay.
um, I say I've grown as a human being. I'm big into mental health and growth, and I've had a lot of mental health struggles throughout my life. I had a lot of stuff going on. Luckily, my wife, like I mentioned, works in a mental health clinic,
Mm-hmm.
so I learn a lot from her as well that I didn't really know before. But there's a lot of growth and how you interact with other people and
Yeah.
how to treat other people and how to be a better person and a better friend. Um, and I've learned a lot from games, just from the community side, because you're doing stuff with friends, you're doing
Yeah.
stuff with people, and so learning what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and how to interact properly with people, how to do social interaction more properly, uh, is something that role playing has helped me with, and it's also helped me become better friends
Mm.
with my friends because of that. So I used to be a raging a hole.
Really?
I was. I used sarcasm as a weapon.
Okay.
I
Okay.
grew up. So I was in like 14 or 15 different schools before high school.
Okay.
So I grew up, and I didn't really get into a lot of physical fights
Mm-hmm.
because I learned to fight with my words.
Okay.
So I could fight with my words to defend myself. I could fight with my words to get out of problems, to get out of situations.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also really good at using my words to hurt people.
Okay.
And sometimes when I'm backed in the corner, sometimes even still to this day, if I feel attacked,
Mm-hmm.
my gut reaction is my words are my weapons, and
Okay.
I've hurt people's feelings, and I apologize all the time, and I'm always trying to be better about that. And it doesn't happen very often these days,
Mm-hmm.
because I know better.
Right.
I know that I do that, and I know I'm in a better place. I'm not an angry person. For
Mm-hmm.
many years, I was an angry person. So playing in your groups and with a close knit group of friends, I've realized I don't need to do that.
Right.
These people are here to support me and be my friend. I need to be there and support them and be their friend. And if somebody makes me angry, all I have to say is, "Hey, I didn't really like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That wasn't cool."
Right.
And usually they're like, because they're my friend, they say, "Okay,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry." And that's you learn that from tabletop role playing with your friends, board games with your friend, video games with your friends, working together as a team, cooperating with people. I learned
Mm-hmm.
all of those things from that space. My math didn't get any better because it sucks.
it, I would you would think that with D&D and Pathfinder and all the TTRPGs that
Yeah.
we'd be able to knock out the numbers
No,
like
I'm like,
that.
I rolled a 17. I got a plus this and a plus this and guys, anybody help me out with this?
Calculator,
Like,
where's the calculator?
yeah,
I
yeah.
usually
Where's the
I usually have my phone in my hand when I'm rolling. If I'm playing a game, like okay, I have a 17 plus, that's an 8. Like, I'm not good at math either, so I get it. Um, if you could DM for someone, dead or alive, real or fiction, up to 5 or 6 people, who would it be?
GM for anybody, real or fiction? That one throws for a loop, and I know I've seen you ask that before,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm like, I should have remembered that was probably coming. Uh, honestly, like I don't. As we've spoken earlier, I don't do a lot of GMing,
Right.
but if I could, uh, there are some amazingly creative people out there, and it's probably just people that I know that I'm friends with that I haven't gotten to role play with before.
Okay.
Whether it's other community members and streamers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's obviously a lot of the people on from the podcast. I'd love to sit down and GM with them. I've gotten to role play with a handful of them.
Okay.
So I've gotten to role play with Ed Greenwood and Eric Scott DeBee and Chris Jackson. I've gotten to sit down and role
You
play
have
with
the
those guys.
greatest names.
Lot of fun. They're three of my favorite authors. I love
Mm-hmm.
those guys. They're amazing. They've done so much for me in the show. So there's a lot of authors and stuff that I would love to sit down and GM for, role
Mm-hmm.
play for. There's a lot of other content creators. I'd love to role play with you. I'd love to role play with Robert Hartley and Dead Aussie Gamer. I'd love to role play with you guys
Yeah.
all. That would be a lot of fun. So the sky's the limit,
Mm-hmm.
and as long as we can keep pushing the this is what our role playing is and spreading word and making better communities for people, I'm all for GMing for anyone that wants to promote that. So
Oh, make my cheeks wet. Okay. I feel fuzzy now. Hi, Haley. So, um, oh
sorry, my
my
chat
God,
over here. I look over here to see the chat because you're up here.
I do the same thing. I'm like looking at the chat. I'm looking at the bit rates. I'm like looking
Yeah.
at the CPU. I'm like, while trying to keep like looking at this.
Yeah, it's a struggle, isn't it? Most people
It's
don't realize what we do, how difficult it is
yeah.
especially when you're live doing it.
It's when you're live. People like why is she not paying attention to her guests? I am, but I'm also paying attention to the fact that the bit rate might drop. Like I'm looking at a bunch of different things. So that's
I
what's
always have
happening.
to say that beforehand. I always tell my guests, like, if I'm looking up here, like I've got your websites here, and I got this information here.
Yeah.
I've got my chat here. I got this over here, and that.
Yep.
I'm not listening. I am listening, but if I'm looking off to the side, I'm monitoring 30 different things. I'm checking audio levels and
Yep.
making sure the video is good and the bit rate. Yeah,
You're looking at bitrate. The CPUs are right. We're doing okay. This is live. We're still straight. This is okay. Great. Do the same thing. But so you also are affiliated with Drive Through RPG.
yes.
Um, I am curious though. Are you going to be, or have you written anything for them?
Specifically, just mine. No, I included. There was something. So I don't know if you know. Do you know who Owen Casey Stevens is?
No, I don't think so.
So he was a big writer for Pathfinder, Starfinder, D&D. He's a
Mm-hmm.
big D&D writer. He's done so much stuff for the D&D and RPG community.
Mm-hmm.
And he's recently was diagnosed with cancer. He's been having a really hard time. And so Samurai Sheepdog RPG company, author
Mm-hmm.
company, publishing company, they put out a tabletop RPG supplement for both Pathfinder and 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the proceeds from that went to help Owen Casey Stevens and help fund
That's
some.
amazing.
And so I submitted a gambling rule set to
Okay.
it. Now I'm credited on Drive Through RPG. I don't know because they weren't able to fit it in the first version of it, and they were
Mm-hmm.
going to add it in later. So I'm technically credited on it, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it ever made it into the book.
Oh, that would be cool. Now I have to go looking for it, and I have to go hunt this down and see what the heck you're talking about, because now I want to know. No. So do you plan on being an author? Do you plan on writing something, not only for TTRPGs, but just in general.
Plan? Yeah. Will I ever get around to? If I had $1 for every project I have 2 novels that I started that I never finished. I've done short stories.
Okay.
I can't stick to a book. I'm not good enough to stick to a long-term novel.
Okay.
I don't have the attention span, the capacity to continue to do that.
Really, even though like you do all of this, you do podcasting, you do so that takes a lot of attention. Like your attention, you're full time streamer, you're full time podcaster, you do all this for a living. So
Yeah, yeah,
how like your attention's always focused on these things. So why not just add writing?
because I don't have time. You got to sit down. You have to sit down for a length of time
Mm-hmm.
and just write. And I've never, I can tell a shorter story,
Mm-hmm.
but a long-term fiction, the longest I've gotten is like a chapter 8 on a story, and I can sometimes see the long-term vision, but it's not the same
Gotcha.
as I'm not a pantser. I can't do it by the seat of my pants. I have to know where I'm going and I have to know what the ins and outs are.
Mm.
It's very much like an RPG. I have an overall idea. These are the highlight points that I want to hit when I'm telling a campaign. And it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing if I wanted to write a story. I can't just pants it.
Right.
I know a lot of authors do that, and a lot of their books are amazing.
Right.
I have a hard time doing that. I have to have. I'm a little more lawful in that, or I need the order, and I can't, and I'll get part of the way through, and I'll lose sight of where I'm doing. I'll lose interest in what I'm doing. There'll be a new shiny in my brain. I'll have another story I
Shiny.
want to tell. There's always going to be something else. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
I like the new shiny. I like
Yeah,
like that.
new
That's
shiny.
new phrase now. I'm gonna have a new phrase. It's gonna pop into my mouth all the time now.
The book is called Like a Boss, by the way. Samurai Sheepdog, Like a Boss. You can get it on Samurai Sheepdog. I had to go
I'm
find it.
going to now look for that. Just actually, say you send me a link in Discord. That'd be great, and I'll hold
Yeah,
on to it. Perfect there. I'll hold on to it there. Um, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Nice, awesome. That makes me happy. Um, so obviously you're married. You're a married man.
Yeah.
How do you balance your home life away from the screen, away from the camera, with your wife and your regular life?
That is part of it is going full time. She works during the day, so I can stream during the day.
Okay.
Some of my schedule I've adjusted for our other community members
Mhm. Mhm.
because there was some overlap,
Okay.
and they aren't necessarily full time.
Mhm.
I am. I can be flexible and I can shift some of those. So a couple of my streams I've shifted during the day so that I'm not streaming at the same time as them.
Okay.
A lot of times, Thursday night is our date night. We'll usually sit down and watch a movie or whatever. Weekends is our time to do house projects, go to a movie, whatever. Weekends is usually my time away. Usually, my time
Usually.
away from the computer.
Mhm.
But I also still have to do promotion. So, like, usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm promoting whatever Monday's podcast guest is.
Okay.
Doing the social media posts. Weekends is usually when you'll see this is the build up to the thing, and then Monday is though we've got this guest today, and then Tuesday is here's a clip of what we had from the guest. Go check out the podcast because the podcast goes live on Tuesdays. But yeah, Tuesday nights, oftentimes we're doing stuff together. Thursday nights we're doing stuff together. Weekends is our time together, doing whatever our projects are, whether we're doing gardening or yard work, mow the lawn, watch a TV show, do a movie, have a date night, go hang out with friends. That's kind of how we balance that. There's only like 2 days a week where it's we both don't have the evening open.
Mhm.
She's an introvert, so she's fine with that. She's fine with
I
having
was
nights to herself where she can just veg out and read a book or do a little project or do some knitting and listen to a show and watch the British baking show or whatever.
that is so sweet. I love that she's like, okay, you're going to do that. I want to be this. Like that's awesome. Um, so I have to ask this though because you kind of touched on it a little bit, but rules is written or rule of cool. Like if you had to choose between the two, which would it be and why?
Whichever works better for the story.
That's
Whatever,
it.
like if it works, if it tells the story better
Mm,
one way or the other,
okay.
if it's more fun for the players, you do one over the other. Like I love rule of cool. I love the rule of cool,
Hmm.
but again, the lawful, the order part of me is like we still got to follow the rules.
Right.
Here I am. I'm like we got to follow the rules. By the way, guys, I made up some new rules. So I've got to balance that. I got to balance that. But I do like the rule of cool. If somebody comes up with a really cool, fun idea, oftentimes I roll with it or give them an option. They're like, this isn't really, there isn't a rule for this. How do I go about doing this? I'll be like, I'm just going to call it a this rule.
Okay.
So I like the rule of cool, especially if I'm a player. I'd much prefer rule of cool.
Of course, if you're a player, that's easy. If you're not a player, if I'm playing, and I will be playing soon on another channel, but if I am playing, I want to be able to launch myself across the air, somersaults
Yeah.
onto the back of the freaking orc, and I don't
So you
know.
need to play Seven Seas is what I'm hearing. You need to play the old school Seven Seas, where the cooler shit you try and do, the better chances you have of
See,
succeeding.
that sounds amazing. That sounds like
Yeah.
something I would definitely do because, but as a DM or as a GM, depending on what I'm doing, um, don't do that because because now my brain's like, okay, hold on. You want to run up this ramp? Yes. You want to somersault off the wall? Yes. You want to launch yourself 50 feet? Yes. Onto the back of the orc? Yes. Okay, hang on. Like now my GM brain is like, how do we make this happen?
Now
So
the other flip side is you can do anything if you roll high enough.
yeah, true.
I,
That's true. Which is usually what I
I
do.
want to, especially in 3.5. What do you want to do? I want to run across that cloud. Okay, you can do it, but you better roll high
You
enough.
better hit
Here's
that
the DC
DC.
is in. They have an epic book for a reason.
Yeah.
There is a DC for it.
Yeah, if you want to, you better hit that DC, or else you're gonna be in a world of hurt, man. Like so,
Yeah.
like I look, I get it. Can I pick this flower and give it to my dragon pet? See, I love stuff like that because it's adorable and it makes the story so great. Um, but then my brain goes, "Do you really want to give a flower to your dragon?" Thank you, Haley. So this is the part where I ask chat to ask any questions you want. If I usually ask that you use channel points so we can keep them in the queue. If you don't have channel points, which I understand if you just got here, you don't have any. Still put them in chat. We'll answer as many questions as we can. But we do have a question from Spates. Um, do you think there's a point of oversaturation where four good products are better than eight mediocre ones?
Is there a frame of reference, or just
I
anything?
think I think Spates. If you're still here, Spates. We were talking about D&D. If I'm not 100% sure.
So, like, if there's a handful of really good ones, they're always going to be better than the mediocre ones.
Yeah, I think that's what you meant. Hold on one second. I think Moobot's being mean to Redneck. I'm so sorry. Moobot is awful. We have tried. They haven't. Moobot hasn't done this in a while. Um,
No, Redneck Jedi.
yeah, Redneck Jedi. We need to get Redneck Jedi back. Oh, it's just a warning. Okay. So yeah, Redneck Jedi. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I know what it is. You put capital letters, and Moobot doesn't like capital letters.
Yeah, I've
The
had to change that moderation in mine so many
Oh,
times.
I've done it so many times. It doesn't like more than three capital letters, and once you do more than three capital letters, it freaks out. So
Yeah,
that's
I,
why I
I
do
upped
that.
mine to 25 or 30 even. I think I upped it to 30 because somebody raids and they come in and all the raiders get banned
Yeah, yeah,
because they're like so and so raid in all capitals, and then they get banned and then they don't ever come back to your channel again. So
exactly.
you gotta change that.
Okay, so spaces in regards to media presence, do you think there is a point of saturation where four good products are better than eight mediocre ones?
Yes. Yes. I wanted to be funny and be like, just end it with yes or no. But yes, here's the thing: you have if you have a bunch of really good products, people are going to go keep watching those products.
Right.
They're not going to go watch the mediocre ones. If your favorite ice cream is chocolate ice cream and you have chocolate ice cream, you're not going to go out of your way to go have vanilla ice cream.
Right.
Will you try it if you're at a friend's house and they're like, "Hey, we don't have chocolate, we've got vanilla. Do you want to try it?" Sure, you're going to try it, and maybe it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you're at your friend's house and you get that opportunity to check out that mediocre ice cream, you're not going to. So yes, I think if there are too many really good ones, you're not going to find the mediocre ones. The That kind of reminds me of the something I always tell people, and you kind of touched on it earlier. I don't know if this is actually related or not, but it just
Hmm.
popped in my brain. Is if nobody knows you exist, no one's going to find your product.
Yes.
So I can have my podcast. I can have 300 episodes of a podcast out there. I could have freaking Hugh. Uh, 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 I could have Ryan Reynolds on,
Right.
and I could have The Rock on. But if nobody knows it's there, I'm not going to get any views.
Right. Right.
If nobody
Exactly.
knows, unless I'm going to have them tell people.
Which,
So,
and they're still going to be like, who are you going to go talk to?
right. Yeah. So, I mean, if people don't know it exists, they don't know it exists. Period. End of subject. So, you've got to make sure that they know you exist. How do you do that? Well, that's the challenge.
That totally is a challenge.
And
So,
is what you're putting out there mediocre, and is it oversaturated with stuff that's way better? And how do you get up to the point where you get seen through all the people that are better? That's the challenge.
that's hilarious. You know what's
And
funny?
once you get better, once you get to that point where you're as good as those ones that aren't mediocre, they're still seeing the other ones. They're still
Yep.
not going to see you. So you still have to be seen. There's still that challenge.
This is that challenge. This 100%. What's funny is that you just said you have to be seen. I put in Stream Elements this whole thing about you, plus your link tree, and it just came up for the first time after an hour and 46 minutes. I
Yeah,
love Stream.
Nightbot does that. Nightbot does that to me all the time.
It's hilarious.
I'll have a guest on and I'll have a scrolling thing and it won't come up, and I'm like, why isn't it coming up? And I'll go over there, I'll copy it,
Yeah.
and then I'll go into the chat and I'll paste it myself, and then it'll pop up right afterwards and I'll have a double. I was like, what the hell? Why didn't you do this 2 hours ago?
So, since we're speaking about a little bit more about streaming and stuff, um,
Yeah.
what insights would you give your community into what this is about? Because we kind of touched on it earlier, where I'm kind of like looking at different places, but people are kind of curious sometimes who don't stream and don't know what to expect or what we're doing. What insight would you give someone who's like, what are you doing when you're doing all these different things on a live stream?
So I've got 3 screens up. I used to have 2, and it was a pain in the butt because
Oh
I'd
my
have
god,
to
so
keep going through pages. I've got another monitor. So I've always got. So first and foremost, OBS.
yes,
OBS, I'm monitoring sound, I'm monitoring video, I'm making sure everyone can hear me, I'm making sure it's grabbing the microphone. I usually do all my podcast interviews via Zoom.
okay,
So I got to make sure Zoom is working. I got to make sure that's updated. I got to make sure everything is there as we're on. And I also have to make sure that my guest, their stuff is working.
yeah,
Because if you get a 70-year-old author
yeah.
who's never doesn't even know how to use the computer, and you're trying to explain to them how to get their microphone to work, that's a challenge.
Yeah,
And you don't want to. You're not going to upset them. You're not going to be like, or you're not going to say like, okay, well, it's down here. You don't want them to feel dumb.
right.
You've got to understand that they're 70 some years old. Why should they be expected to know that stuff? So you're doing that. Plus you've got their website up. Plus you've got your information up. Plus you've got your outline up. Because you got your plans of whatever you're going to say. Plus you have to worry about, okay, they went off the subject. Do I stop this conversation and start a new conversation?
Right.
What does the chat say? Can they hear me? Is the voice working? Is the chat in there? Somebody redeemed a thing. Oh, now that they redeemed. Oh, we got raided. Oh, a bot came in and spammed me in my chat. Do I have a moderator that can take care of that? Do I not have a moderator that can take care of that? Somebody said that something happened. Do I need to worry about that during the interview? Meanwhile, they're looking at you like, did you hear what I said?
Like, are you paying attention to me?
Right, exactly. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's if everything's working perfectly.
Right. If anything goes wrong, you're like, no,
Yeah.
I don't want to say it right now. I'll probably wait until after the stream because I don't want to jinx anything. But I will say after the stream, what hasn't happened. So, chat. If you have any more questions, please put it in chat. In the meantime, I
Good
will
question.
give Nick question. In the meantime, as I've always told my guests, I usually allow my guests to guide the raid if they are familiar with Twitch. You are inevitably.
What's Twitch?
I know, right? It's this weird purple thing. Oh, SpaceX, and you want to do this full time? Yes, yeah, I do. I want to do this full time. I'll tell you why I want to do this full time. Because New York City Fire Department, from the time you go to the academy, graduate, become an EMT or paramedic, and promote, the New York City Fire Department is actively trying to murder you. I've been there for 20 years. I believe me, I know this. Jen asked, "Are you going to any cons that includes?" Yes, I am going to cons. But Nick, are you going to any cons coming up?
Next weekend, actually, I'm going to the 605 Pop Culture Con in Sioux
Mm-hmm.
Falls, South Dakota.
Okay.
Actually, myself and a bunch of content creators are going to be there. A lot of our community is going to be there. We have a VR community of friends. Identity Crisis is going to be there. Roddy Mama is going to be there.
Oh
A,
wow.
a couple of my moderators who are also amazing streamers. Bentley, who is in your chat right now, she's going to be there. Octavius is going to be there. We've got all kinds of people that are going to the 605 Culture Con. Timothy Zahn is going to be there, who's a Star Wars author. Rosario
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dawson.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 3 or 4 people from Ahsoka that are going to be there, actors that are going to be there. Plus, they have a whole vending room, all kinds of stuff. So that's going to be this weekend in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 605 Pop Culture Con. I will not be at Gen Con this year, much to my dismay. I want to go to Gen Con. Hopefully next year I can go to Gen Con, and I'm hoping that I can be part of the Writers Symposium and be one of their moderators for the Writers Symposium at Gen Con, because I know all of the authors that are there. So they might as well get a moderator that knows what they're doing and can hang out with all those people and not be starstruck, doing moderating these author panels.
uh, Gen X for me. I am going to Gen Con this year, and the only other con I plan on going to are near Comic Con. But right before that, I'll be going to PAX. So those are the three I'm going to this year. There'll be more cons next year. This is all income driven, so those are the three I'll be doing. But let's see. Do I want to? And I want to do this full time. Yeah, I do. So.
I want to do Gary Con for sure. That's another one I want to do. And there's
Mhm.
another one in the Gary Con in the Wisconsin area, and I can't remember the name of it. That's really popular that everybody goes to, that I want to go to as well. So there's a couple cons in that area that I really want to go to. A lot of my friends
Mhm.
in the industry go there, and I'd love to go and hang out with all of them as well.
Right. So, SpaceX, did both of you start the DM journey by running modules, or did you jump start into your own worlds? I'm gonna let you answer first because my answer is a little strange, but
I didn't even know modules existed when I started GMing. I started playing. We started role playing. I started role playing with GURPS.
Oh
Um, and
wow, okay.
eventually, and eventually, a friend of mine introduced me into an advanced D&D, and we started playing AD&D. And I didn't know, I was in high school, and he was playing, and we were just. I won't tell you the ridiculousness of the games. Looking back, they're ridiculous. But eventually, when I started GMing, I was just making stuff up and kind of trying to figure out the rules and telling stories. AD&D, you didn't have really skills. You didn't have skills that you
No,
rolled.
no.
So it was just kind of like, how do I blacksmith? Well, you
Right,
really you just it just whatever. There wasn't really a mechanic for it.
right.
So yeah, it was just storyline and role playing, and it wasn't until way later in second edition. It wasn't until third edition I realized that there were modules, but there were modules for second edition that I
Yes.
got later, and I was like, oh, here's a module, and I just used the information in the modules.
For me, so I started DMing. I started playing. I'm not DM. I started playing in college. When a guy that I was interested in kind of like, "You want to come play at my table?" They were playing 3.5, and I was like, "Sure." And I hated it. I hated every moment of it because all it was like, "You're a girl. Why are you here?" And I couldn't stand it. So, which is why I love 4E, because after that came out, I was like, oh, this is much better than that crap.
Okay,
And it
I
had
see it
nothing.
now. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it had nothing to really do with the game. It had to do with my experience. And then
Yeah.
after that, I was like, I can freaking run a game better than this person. Like I could totally do that. I started DMing, and but I started DMing straight from homebrew because I refuse to read someone else's story. I'm not following that. It's dumb. My story's better. So, um, Jen
I
asked,
always loved your own story.
yeah,
We did Star Wars, and I'm like, if you play in the Star Wars world during the canon movies, it's like you can kill Chewbacca. It's
yeah,
okay. You can kill Luke
absolutely kill Chewbacca.
Skywalker. There's ramifications, but you can do it.
You could totally kill them. It's fine.
Just
Like,
remember, if Luke Skywalker, if you kill him before he destroys the Death Star,
It's on you.
That's on you. You know what's gonna happen.
Like, unless you're gonna do it yourself, good luck. That DC's gonna
Gamehole
be
Con.
hot.
Thank you, Jennifer. Gamehole Con.
Is that the one you were trying
That's
to
the
go
other one
to?
I was trying to remember. Gamehole Con. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to go to Gamehole Con. I know, Jen. I would love to go to Gamehole Con. However, it is the exact same time as New York Comic Con, and I will be trying to submit some panels for New York Comic Con, and that's why. Also, money. I can't afford to fly twice or three times a year like that unless things pick up. I won't be able to do it, but I would love to go to Gamehole Con one year. So we'll see what happens. Um, if you don't have any more questions, where might we be rating out to? If you
Well,
want to take a look.
that's a very good question.
Yeah. And in the
Do you
meantime,
do you
while you're,
care do you care thematically? Are we sticking to role
I
players or
don't really care. I mean, I found a really cool um, a streamer from one of my guests, and he did D&D, but he was also a gamer. And I found Avant, who I ended up interviewing. So he's amazing. He's hilarious. But in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'm gonna put my calendar here so we can tell you guys what we are doing for the next couple of days. So tomorrow is a regular stream, no interview. We will be probably doing some world building because we haven't done in a while, and the world needs updating. So we need to do that, especially with the laws, because we haven't done any laws lately. But on the 14th, we have Daniel Hargrove and his wife coming on the channel to discuss all the new changes in D&D and all the things that we'll be doing. They'll be doing on their channel and on TikTok. Next week, Friday, we have Sphinx Akasha. I'm super excited about that. And we have The Mandy for an interview as well on Saturday. And then on the 23rd, I'm super excited to tell you guys about this. I will be playing a live. I will be playing as a player on with Justin. They are an amazing DM. So you want to be a dungeon master on their channel, and I will be playing in their live modern D&D type of game in a college setting. I'm super excited about doing that. Cannot wait. So guys, check out So You Want to Be a DM. They're super fun and cool to hang out with. So if no one has any more questions, I'm gonna look. I'm looking. Don't see any more questions. That means I need to clean. What? Wait, hold on, hang on. You would have a place to. Oh, thank you so much. But you would. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Joe. We'll see what happens next year, but right now, that's not gonna happen. But so where are we? Uh, sure, we can do that. We can totally do that. We're going to, and I'm not gonna try and pronounce that word. You're gonna have to say it for me.
okay? So it's science. So like science, like
Okay, science. Okay.
science, but it's with ants because he's an entomologist.
Oh, cool.
He's an entomologist. He'll look at like through a microscope. It's a really nerdy, geeky sort of thing. It's all about science. He is a scientist. His wife is a scientist. He is an entomologist. I forget what she is, and they do all kinds of stuff. And he's an amazing group, amazing people, and lots of fun. And yeah, just he's an artist. He does everything. He does everything. So
Oh,
he's
that's
super
amazing.
cool, and he's very nerdy, and I like nerdy stuff. So there you go.
That is so cool. Thank you. So we'll be rating out to them. In the meantime, I will just before we go, what can we expect from Epic Realms in the next few months, and what can we expect from Nick in the future?
So Epic Realms, the podcast, we're going to have all kinds of guests. We have James Louder coming on, who's a D&D author. He did Forgotten Realms. He wrote for Ravenloft, so he's going to be coming up. We've got Dave Schrader from Discovery. He's returning. So if you've ever watched paranormal shows, he's the one of the main people from the Holzer Files and the Ghosts of Devil's Perch and
Yep.
the Curse of Lizzie Borden. So Dave Schrader is going to be joining us on the podcast. We've got Mark Meir, who is the voice of Shepard.
Oh.
Voice actor from Shepard. He's going to be coming on. He also does Call of Cthulhu. He's like, if you ever go to the Call of Cthulhu page and you see their version of Critical Role, but for Call of Cthulhu,
Oh,
he's
that
their
is so
GM. So
cool.
he's going to be joining us for that. We got all kinds of people. Leanne Merciel, who's Pathfinder, is doing their book novels again. And Leanne Merciel she's got the first of the new series coming out. She's going to be joining us roughly right when that book starts to come out. So we got all kinds of stuff, lots of authors, lots of guests. So you can check that out anywhere you get podcasts. Me, as far as Nick, I'll be doing the same stuff. I've been doing a lot of the Once Human video game on stream. We've got, we are booked for our Off the Pod all the way through till August. But hey,
Oh.
guys, guess who's going to be joining us in August? this person right here. They're going to be joining me for Off the Pod in August, so you can come and join us. So make sure you come and
Super
follow
excited.
me with that, and we're going to reverse the positions here. It's not really Off the Pod isn't an interview show per se. It's a
Mhm.
conversation about topics on a timer that's completely interactive. So the more people that come and chat with us, the more fun it is. So it's a lot of
I'm
fun.
super excited about that because you are my very first person that has asked me to come on for an interview. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. That I'm actually interviewing first. Potions and Potpourri are another podcast who has asked me to come on. We just haven't figured out the scheduling yet. As
Okay.
it's always fun, but I'm super excited about being on your channel. Yeah, I can't wait. I was also very nervous, but we'll talk about that later. But guys, we're gonna go over and see those lovely people that science. That seems super cool, guys. As always, please remember that it's always better to be kind than to be nice. And if you can't be good, please be careful. Thank you so much, Nick, for hanging out with us. It was a great time. And guys, I will see you tomorrow for a stream for whatever we're gonna figure out what to do. Talk to you guys later. Bye.